They took a risk on me and I sang Salome. I think it was maybe the third performance. I'll never forget it. At the end, I just put my hand down on the stage. We were bowing. There's just something about what it is to show something to these people and to feel like you're projecting this thing out, this human thing. And it's partly you and partly what you understand about humans. And there's something about being on stage that allows that.
Welcome to HarmonyTALK, a podcast of conversations with individuals who share their journey fulfilling a dream. My guest today is opera soprano Melanie Henley Heyn, who grew up in rural Northeastern Pennsylvania. Since her debut at the age of 10 as Amahl in Amahl and the Night Visitors, Melanie Henley Heyn has performed all over the world, from Venezuela to Vienna, performing mostly opera songs, but she also sings some concert and folk songs as well. Her voice can be heard in Battlestar Galactica, the sci-fi franchise, singing, what else? Battlestar Operatica. Hello, everybody. I'm Lisa Champeau, your host for today. This podcast is brought to you by AM Skyer, a third-generation family insurance business that promotes and celebrates dreamers and doers. Melanie Henley Heyn joins us from her home in New Jersey and goes by the professional name Henley Heyn. So first, welcome, and then please tell me, should I call you Henley or Melanie?
You can call me Melanie. My name is Melanie, but I use Henley Heyn as a stage name. Sometimes for a long time, I was using three names, and it got a little bit hard when I would introduce myself. People wouldn't remember who I was, so I just switched at one point, and I like to use both Henley and Heyn because it has a lineage of my parents, both of them. So,
All right. Well, then I'll probably call you Melanie Henley Heyn.
yeah, you can call me Melanie. Right here, you can call me Melanie.
All right. Well, Melanie, you grew up in a very small town in Pennsylvania in the 90s when most people your
40
age
people, 40 people, yes.
As I said, it was a very small town. When most kids your age, I would think, would be listening to country western, rock and roll, R&B, hip hop. How did you discover opera?
Well, I think first I discovered singing. So I was singing very young. My mom's friend Anne talks about when I was just a baby going, la, la, la. And I'm actually getting back to that. I'm getting more and more towards a pure expression of singing, I think, now. So I think of that time. Not that I remember it, but I think of myself at that age. So yeah, I sang a lot, and then we sang folk music a lot. So I came out of that route. Some opera singers they were first singing in church. Some people were first doing musical theater. Some people just were in chorus, and somebody said, you know, you've got a great voice. For me, I just was singing and singing, and then we had a local company run by Carol Castell. It's 40 years old actually this year. Um, and
A local opera company.
a local opera company in Narrowsburg, New York. So I grew up on the Pennsylvania side, but Narrowsburg is not too far from Abramsville, where I grew up. Yeah, so they did Amahl and the Night Visitors. It's a Christmas opera. So they did that. I mean, for me, I was 10, so I was like every year. I don't know how many years it was, but
And you auditioned.
I did. Yeah, I auditioned, but my mom actually watched the original. It was made for TV, and when she was a kid, she watched it on television, and it was the only opera that she knew. And we had a record of it, a vinyl, and so I had actually listened to it. And so when I saw it the Christmas before, I'd already heard it, and so then I just listened to it over and over and over again and learned it that way. I was already taking piano lessons, but that was my first, like, learning music for singing that wasn't, like, folk related or singing together.
It somehow must have drawn you. Although, was that what you wanted to do? Because did you want to play piano? Did you want to do something else? I heard you ran for office at one point.
Oh, yeah. In some ways, it's gosh, it was like forks in the road. I'll tell you a little bit about that, but I think I just knew that I loved singing, and then once I did 'em all, I was very serious about it. I mean, I remember now sitting on the rock that they had built just sitting there waiting for the music, and with my recorder that I was playing. Da 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 da. Like, what I usually say to people is, "Oh, yeah, I sang 'em all, and then I was an opera singer." And that's really how it went. I was 10 then.
But
When I
there's
was
so much
12,
acting in that as well. I mean, Amahl is a little, uh, disabled shepherd boy.
yes, I always felt good about singing and acting as a character. I it's funny as we talk about it, I can just remember how serious I was about the character. Yeah. So I think that those 2 things together, then it was like just this melding of, like, sharing and like, sort of, telling this story and the poetry and the music. Yeah.
So you didn't want to be a pianist or run for off or a government job.
No, before that, it was what I loved, right? I loved music. I loved singing. I loved being in the shows that we did in community theater. Jack Hardy was a folk musician, and he and Angela, who also has a folk show, they had written various community plays that we did before that, and so I just loved that in general. I love to do it, but I think it was after a mall that it was, like, very clear, "This is what I'm going to do," at least until I was, like, 12.
Well, I had read somewhere that you actually walked out on a piano recital.
Oh, I did. Where did you see that? Oh, the most horrible moment of my life.
Someone else's interview. But it sounds like you just kept coming back to the singing is where I'm leading up to here.
Yes, and I kept studying. You heard from Mariana Milks, my piano teacher. I studied until I was 17 piano, which has helped me a lot.
So what happens on stage for you?
When you say that, I think of this moment. My first professional role was Salome in opera. If you were in the opera business, you would go, "What?" It's very difficult. It's very dramatic. It sounds a little bit more crazy than it really was because I had always been singing in the schools that I was in. I was doing operas all the time. I did so many operas when I was a kid with the DBO and Carol Castell. Um,
The
so I
Delaware
did
Valley Opera.
so
Mhm.
yeah, I did I had performed a lot, but I hadn't been paid for it, and I got lucky in a way that the director, I was ready. I was just hoping to be hired, and this happens a lot. To say very briefly, with dramatic sopranos, it takes a long time for them to develop, and there's not so many small roles for them to do in the meantime. So it's hard for someone to take a risk. Anyway, they took a risk on me and I sang Salome. At the end, it wasn't the first performance. I think it was maybe the third performance. I'll never forget it. At the end, I just put my hand down on the stage. We were bowing. There's just something about what it is to show something to these people and to feel like you're projecting this thing out, this human thing, and it's partly you and partly what you understand about humans and partly so yeah, there's something about being on stage that allows that.
It sounds like magic.
It
Now
yeah.
now you trained, of course, at the Manhattan School of Music, the University of Southern California, but I imagine that you're pretty much training every day. You mentioned opera singers, their voices getting better as they get older and being richer and so on, but in order to hold those high notes, you must have to constantly practice and train. What is your day like? What do you do every day to help that along?
Well, I can tell you the ideal day, which doesn't happen a lot. um, as I get older, I've really filled my life out. So I actually feel much more stable when I have a full life. I live here in New Jersey with Daniel, my husband, who is extremely supportive, and then but that's now part of my life is to be in community here. For some reason now as I get older, I'm able now just to practice. So I practice. So I used to have a hard time practicing because I put too much importance on it. So sometimes I need pressure to practice. Like it's coming now, or but now I don't. Now I practice, I would like to say every day. It's not exactly true. If I don't practice for 3 days, I get depressed, which happens more than I like to admit.
Do you still work with a trainer of any kind, or is your own training?
I worked with, a number of teachers, Shigemi Matsumoto in California, Lynn Vardaman in New York, and Uta Schwabe in Vienna. And then I worked with myself for about 11 years. I didn't have a voice lesson. And just recently, I sing a lot of German repertoire, but I wanted to learn this Italian repertoire, and I went to a teacher who's Italian, Andrea Del Giudice, and I have learned Italian technique from her, and you heard it last week.
I did. We didn't mention that yet, but yes, I did hear you perform last week, and I was moved, definitely.
Oh,
And you did mention that you were more familiar and comfortable with German, and Italian was new to you, but you did a great job.
oh, thank you. And I know this is the interview in one direction, but I'd love to know what your experience of it was like over the course of the evening, like what your experience of, and then I can tell you maybe my experience, because yeah.
Oh, well, for our listening audience, you performed at the Cooperage Project in Honesdale, Pennsylvania. You
Mm,
performed with a tenor from Italy named
yes.
Marco Ferrulli. So it was kind of a pairing of opera singers. And but I just thought your voice sounded, to be perfectly honest with you, it was much richer than what I had heard online.
Ah, well, I've been studying Italian technique for a year. I'd love to say that, oh, well, recordings and the space and that sort of thing, but I actually do think that it is. It is. I have found a way to, I wanna say, even maximize the sort of resonant impact of the singing, whereas before the drama was number 1 for me, the text and the drama. And now I think by doing so much Italian repertoire, I've started to put the physical nature of it, the physics of it, right on the top, the one, which for me was very hard and very scary. And I think the concert that you saw was one of the first times I've been able to just let the dramatic part go and just sing with my guts.
Well, kudos, bravo to you. We are going to listen to you singing right now. We're going to have a little clip of you singing because after that, the audience has to hear you. That was absolutely, absolutely beautiful. So you now you produced an album, right? 33 Divas, and I just want to read a little clip about it. It's combining classic Wagner, Verdi, and Puccini roles with modern American opera heroines. And when it was launched, it was and still may be the number one most funded Kickstarter for a solo classical artist. Well, tell us about that album. What do we hear on it, and why did you choose Kickstarter?
So at that time, Kickstarter was when I first did it, it was people were using it for a lot of things, but not as much yet in the classical realm. And like I said, it's hard as a dramatic soprano to get this first gig. And I felt like I have to be able to show that I can do this. And not only sound, but also video. I just like got lit with a fire, and I did it. It was very difficult. I didn't sleep for a month when I was raising, um, funds. Really, it's a testament to the community I grew up in. Everybody was very supportive. I bit off more than I could chew. I knew that immediately, and so then I worked really hard, probably harder than I've ever worked. Yeah, and everything was new. "Ah, I'm gonna get these costumes for these photo shoots. Oh, I'm gonna find places for these photo shoots. Oh, I'm gonna get these microphones in a small town in Austria and take them to Bratislava, Slovakia, and, like, hire this guy and then edit it and then listen to it." And then, I mean, it was design the cover album with my friend from Boston.
It was a lesson.
It was a lesson, and I learned so much about everything that goes into it. It was very difficult to do that at the same time as singing. Yeah, I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of it.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. So, what are some of the things that we hear on it? Like, what are some of the compositions?
I sing a lot of Wagner. I sing Sieglinde, although I actually have also sung Brunhilde from this opera, Valkyrie. But I love this aria, the Sieglinde aria. I also sing Beethoven. He only wrote one opera. I
Hmm.
sing Leonora's aria, which is the first one on the album, and it's just crazy amazing. Um, I sing mm, the other day, I just told Daniel that my favorite, I think, right now is the Berlioz. He got new speakers, so I haven't listened to it in a long time, but we listened to it on the new speakers, and it sounds pretty good.
Well, you've been pretty ambitious in general. I mean, I understand you're trying to write a libretto. Have you done that? Have you finished that?
Yes, so I have a couple of okay. As I've gotten older, I have learned that the art in me also has to do with getting people together and making things and also thinking about the genre and, like, where it may be going. I've had a couple of experiences in my life, in my non-operatic life. My dad has been an activist his whole life, and he was involved, with, the Chelsea Manning, then Bradley Manning case a number of years ago, and I happened to be in the courtroom when Chelsea Manning was, sentenced. And the image was so strong that I thought it should be shared. You know, there weren't very many people there and no cameras, but there was just this moment. There were a couple of moments during that time that I thought were
Just tell our audience a little bit about, just briefly, Chelsea Manning and
yeah.
Bradley Manning.
So Chelsea Manning, who was named Bradley Manning at that time, had shared classified information from the US military about civilian deaths in Afghanistan and Iraq. My dad felt very strongly about that, and so he was there was a group of people that were supporting this person because she was in the brig without her glasses in a boat off the coast of DC, for a long time, and they were supporting her through this. There's lots of opinions about this, by the way, as there often is in whistleblower cases
Sure. I'm just trying to figure out how this played into your possibly writing a libretto. Were you thinking she might be a subject for a song?
for an opera. Yes, and I think because there's just these moments that are very human and very emotional, and it was so emotional what happened in this courtroom because the person who turned this person in to the FBI, they knew each other online, but they'd never met until the courtroom, and there was this moment where they met there, and that for me is theater, right? This moment of two people and what happens and what is the emotion, and opera is outsized emotion, huge emotion.
Mm,
Um, yeah,
I can see it.
so
But yeah,
yeah, and the
you
courtroom, the scene, I can
mm,
see it, I can see it.
it sounds like you might be able to break out into song any second now. But you also, let's just move on just a bit. You also produce something that's been very widely distributed, Vienna to Hollywood.
Ah, okay, yes, so my friend Deirdre Brenner and I, a pianist, when I lived in Vienna, we had a duo, and we created a concert performance of composers who had this is interesting because this is like what I'm doing now. That was the first thing I did like this to create a program with a hyper focus that's sharing a story. So we shared the story about these composers who originated in Vienna and they all ended up in Los Angeles.
And were they persecuted?
Yes, so during before World War II, Korngold was already there. He was there working. He didn't go back to Vienna. Schoenberg was in Vienna, left. These are some of the more famous names. But LA was a backwater at that time. It was not like now. And there were all these Austrian literati characters living in Los Angeles. Yeah, so we told that story through the music that they wrote.
Which is, I guess it's now played in synagogues and libraries and
Yes, we did a tour. We sang in various libraries and universities, and it was a wonderful time.
hmm. Who would you most like to collaborate with? You've collaborated with quite a few, um, chamber musicians and composers, but who would be your dream collaboration? Living or dead?
Pete Seeger.
Pete Seeger. He didn't
The
do
people
opera.
here, they didn't know. The people that I have admired, Pete Seeger, Leonard Bernstein, Paul Robeson, John Vickers. There are some conductors that I really admire. Holly Cho.
What about opera singers that you may have admired or, gone to see purposely or knew of, again, living or dead?
There's a baritone I saw a couple weeks ago, that I don't even know that person's name, and I've been like, "I need to go find the program. I need to find out who this is." I find that I often am thinking of instrumentalists. I like to do chamber music. There are cellists that I love, people that I've met who are younger than me, who have things to say. I think in this sort of like what composer should be the composer for this libretto, or what conductor do I wish I could learn something from? What
Well, I'm hearing a
music would
thread
I want to
here.
sing?
I'm hearing a thread here. I'm hearing kind of a like you want to produce songs or compositions that combine that the story is also political or at least tells something about changing the world. That's what it sounds like to me, as
Ah,
opposed to some of the more very dramatic love stories. And
yes, I often am attracted to that. I think it comes from my background. My dad was a medic in Vietnam and has has worked his whole life towards having that not happen again. For a long time, I felt that that I had, like, a sort of burden to also follow exactly in that path. I think that's where some of my political leanings are. I tend not to be political in that I am trying I always think about, like, drawing people together, right? How do we draw people together? Not like this is right or that's right. And I guess I think that art can sometimes show those double perspectives. Theater can show those perspectives. What if theater was showing the perspective of the bad guy and the perspective of the good guy? I think it has that capability. I don't think that it can change the world specifically, but I think that it can make it easier to get through.
well, it can certainly move people. What opera did you see in person that most moved you? What performance do you remember, one that really stuck out?
The people that I worked with on Salome, the directors, they did a production of Mephistopheles, Mephistopheles in Venice. I mentioned it in the concert because I sang that aria, and it really addressed a lot of things about dark and light and where you find the devil and how you what it takes to live a life going upwards, what it takes to live a life towards creative things, towards people joining, you know, what it takes. And I think I said I sat in the theater and cried. Numerous people were sitting in the theater afterwards, because they really showed that each person can do their little one person thing. And I mean little in that, I feel sometimes I sit at this desk and I wish I could do this, but I know what I can do, I know that I know that I can, you know, shine a light on one composer who I think is amazing, but might not have a light shown on them. I can bring people together to sing American music that hasn't been shown. I'm doing that right now. And just working together, anybody working together is the answer to some of to the dark parts, That's the light.
Wow. Well, we certainly look forward to that. What are some of the things you're doing now? What's your next project?
Next project is called it's called Unum American Quartet. And it's four singers. I'm the soprano. My old longtime friend, also from Pennsylvania, Deshaun Burton is the bass baritone. Kareem Suleiman is Lebanese tenor, Lebanese American tenor, and Gabriela Solis is the alto, a true alto. And we are singing four-part music from America. We're going to make an album. We're singing four-part music of all groups that came to this country, where we have a German hymn and a French psalm and Mexican workers anthem. And I'm thinking of all the things we have. We have a Lebanese song, Adabke, and we have a Shabbat melody, and it's really, really beautiful. And it's, I think
And this will be a record. It won't be a will be a
both.
performance
Yes.
somewhere. Oh,
So
both.
we're making a record first, and then we're going to go on tour. Two of us have less experience in this realm, and two of us have a lot of experience, and we're putting those things together, and we're singing all of this music of people who live here. And it is, yeah, I might just cry a little bit.
Is it kind of for the 250th anniversary?
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's been great talking to you. Do you have words of advice for young people seeking a career in opera or even just the theater? You certainly talked about some lessons you learned along the way, and maybe there are some lessons you can impart.
Yeah. I think two things. One is judgment is the dark. Do not let the judgment of yourself or others direct what you're doing. It's possible to spin that right around and make it creative, to know where you are and accept where you are and then work. The working, the love of the thing that you're doing, the love of yourself, that is the thing that's going to guide you through. When you work in opera, when you work in these genres, there's so much precision and so much perfection expected, and you can only get there over time. It's taken me my whole life, and I couldn't be happier, but I spent a good 10, 12 years judging myself and listening to all of the people that were telling me what I was doing wrong, when in reality, I could have just been practicing and getting better and better and better. And then one day you wake up and you can almost do everything you want to be able to do with your instrument. So
There you go. Practice, practice, practice.
that's true, but not because you are upset at yourself, because you love this thing.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us and being with us, and I wish you the best of luck. For our audience, if you want to know more about Melanie Henley Heyn, you can visit her website at henleyheyn.org. Is that correct? .org or .com? .org.
.com. And you
.com.
can also go to Bandcamp. There's music there if you'd like to find some things.
Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure hearing you, and I hope to hear you in person again.
Lisa, thanks so much for coming to the
All right.
concert.
This podcast has been brought to you by AM Skyer, a third-generation family insurance business that promotes and celebrates dreamers and doers like Melanie Henley Heyn. Thank you so much. Talk to you next time.